We're continuing our coverage here at Davos, and joining me now is Amitabh Chaudhry of Axis Bank. Thanks very much, Amitabh, for joining us here today. Let me start by asking you about the overall mood that you're picking up, both in terms of global environment as well as the India story.
Well, when you talk about the global environment, obviously it's more cautious. People are a bit worried about 23 and what it could entail for them. Various forecasts around 1/3 of the world will be in recession. Global, G10 banks are trying very hard to control inflation. Mini recessions everywhere. So in that sense, the mood for 23 is a bit somber. As far as India is concerned, obviously it seems to be more euphoric. I think India has managed the COVID crisis well. The geopolitical situation is favoring India. A lot of investments going into India. I think India is being seen as a large domestic market, the last large domestic market which people can tap into. It's an open economy. I think the government's policies have been supportive of foreign investment and general capex. So in that sense, I'm seeing a lot of euphoria around India. I'm just hoping that all this promise which we are showing, we can execute on it and deliver the results. And if we can, I think this could be a very, very important period for India.
Yes, the question though is of course on execution. I know you're in your silent period and so we cannot talk specifically about what's happening at the bank, but overall, there was a base effect that played out as far as the banking sector was concerned in the year gone by. What's the expectation now? Do you see some degree of tapering, or do you believe that we are likely to continue to be able to replicate the kind of growth that we saw?
So credit growth obviously picked up in this year, which is almost over now. I would expect, I think the credit growth has started tapering off a little bit, and it will taper off a little bit more, somewhere in the 13 to 14% range next year. The deposit growth rate is not picking up. At some stage it has to, otherwise it will have an impact on the credit growth rate. I think in the short term, the interest rates obviously are going up. As far as the long-term rates are concerned, I think they will follow more. I would say the interest rate hike cycle is almost coming to an end. So in that sense, you are expecting a slightly more confident, stable environment going forward. Government knows that they have to support the economy. They have to ensure that the economic growth continues to get delivered. And I think in that mode, and especially with the election years coming up, they would try to ensure that if tomorrow's system liquidity is going to create a problem in terms of credit growth, they will try to infuse system liquidity. I'm not trying to give any hints here, but I think the only thing I'm trying to say is that with the current deposit growth rate, credit growth rate at a faster clip cannot be supported. And if the Indian economy needs it, I'm sure the government and RBI will do something about it, as it did during COVID times, very successfully.
Well, we will have to wait to see. We've got the big budget coming up on the 1st of February, and let's see what the finance minister delivers there. But you said that you believe that it's the peak as far as interest rates are concerned. Do you expect a pause in Feb, or do you think that we'll see one last hike?
I would say another last hike of 25 basis points. RBI is quite focused on taming inflation. It is coming in check, but I think they will continue down the path of ensuring that they kind of put it a little bit behind them. For the first time, I'm seeing some economists now start talking of interest rate cuts going forward in the next 12 months. Maybe too early, but if the fact that some people are predicting it does go to show that the confidence in this interest rate hikes and taming of inflation is coming down. We have to be a bit cautious about one or two factors. With China opening up and opening up so rapidly, I think there will be a little bit of restocking that will happen, could have an impact on commodity prices. Russia-Ukraine war, still a bit of a question mark. How it could play out in some of the other commodity prices, one doesn't know. So if you were to look at India's situation or the global impact on India from a finance perspective, this is where there was a lot of outflow of money. I think that has stabilized. In terms of commodity prices, broadly stabilized, but there are some risk factors. Now, the trade is the side which you need to worry on. Exports have slowed down. And with the global recession people are talking about, they could slow down further. So that's something which you need to watch for moving forward. And that also will directly speak to our GDP growth rate. So that's
yes.
it.
Well, the expectation for next year that the IMF has is about 6.4. But, in terms of consumption, that seems to be holding at this point in time. And what's the indication that you get on that front?
So the overall consumption story is looking good. But if you go and talk to the consumer good companies, they are saying that the rural demand is a bit slow. While the prices have been hiked, because as inflation started rising, they were able to raise prices. But the volumes are still not coming through. So, but overall, the sentiment seems to be quite positive. I would say that we have to watch for this demand number quite closely. And it should and has to pick up at some stage for the overall consumption story to play out.
What we saw was a big rebound as far as the real estate market was concerned, and through the course of the pandemic we've seen that play out. Do you expect that to continue? Are you getting indications that we may see a bit of a slowdown there?
No, right now I'm not seeing a slowdown at all as far as the real estate market is concerned. If you go and talk to the real estate players, very, very positive about how they see their sector story play out. Especially on the residential side, they have suffered quite a bit for a long period of time. So they do believe the timing is right and things should work out quite well. I think with more and more data becoming available to Indian banks, our ability to underwrite the customers is also improved. So now we can give more to our customers, underwrite better, price it better. So in that sense, potential for a customer to go and raise a little bit of money to buy real estate has also improved. And I think it will continue to improve over a period of time.
I want to talk about the digitization story, and of course that has been a story that you've been at the forefront of at Axis. What's the next big thing on that journey for you?
So a couple of things which are playing out. One is that we have to credit the government and RBI for creating all kinds of platforms which have aided the digital story of India. And they continue to do it. It's not stopped. So, all the things they're doing, ONDC, account aggregator, now RBI is, trying to automate and trying to ensure digitization of all kinds of services and products which are being offered to the customer. So that's one part of it. Second, every institution, every bank, every NBFC is on their own journey to improve the customer experience and digitize large part of their operations and their front end to the customers. So we are on that journey. Third, with all the data which is flowing in, I think all of us are working very hard to ensure that our ability to digest this data, ability to underwrite customers better using this data, and actually serve offerings to the customers when they actually come to us instantaneously is also getting better and better over a period of time. So this ingestion of data, serving of data is also something which all of us are working on. So given all those three layers, I would say the benefit will finally go to the customers in terms of, as our costs lower down or we are able to reach more customers or a wider set of customers, the first benefit will go to the customer. And as customers embrace more and more of it, I think it will only spur more investment in digitization of broader India. I think a lot of global companies and countries are watching us very closely because they're just amazed with what India has created at such a low cost. I mean, look at UPI. I mean, what we have done is just brilliant. And we are replicating in some other platforms. So I would expect account aggregator to emerge as another UPI in the future because you are almost creating an open banking system. And when that happens, I think there could be a huge flood of a customer, getting more and more offers and better offers from various institutions.
Which is going to make your life harder.
Oh yes, it is. Which means more investments, which means we have to have 3-5-year plans on how this digital story has to play out. Competition will intensify from every corner. So, but that's what makes life interesting. So that's what we're looking forward to.
Well, unfortunately, we cannot talk specifics because you are in your silent period, but we hope to have you back again to talk more granular and in detail. Always a pleasure. Thanks very much for joining us here in Davos. Well, that is Axis Bank's Amitabh Chaudhry. We are back in a minute with a lot more conversation here at Davos 2023.